where significant decisions are made, and actually it comes at a time when, in reality, the President of the United States of America is not deemed to be as competent as perhaps he should be. Now, look, it may well be that this is a storm in a teacup, but this is a Class A narcotic, and for it to be found in an area where people are making life and death decisions, where people can summon nuclear strikes, I think it's something we ought to be worried about. Erol Morkoc is a chief strategist and vice chairman of Republicans overseas in the UK. Erol, welcome.
Hi there. How are you? Thank you for having me.
So look, first of all, just tell us a little bit about this, because obviously there are areas that the public access in the White House. There are areas that are very, very not public. What do we know about where this was found, and what was the sort of quantity? I mean, was this sort of a bag of it? Was it a small amount? Do we know any of those details?
We do, and there has been a little bit of, let's say, obfuscation from the live mainstream media as the story has broke. But all you really need to look at is the transcription from the hazmat team that was forced to go into there. And they were conducting this sort of, let's go with, investigation on the white powder because, it could be anthrax.
They thought initially it could be anthrax. That's what they were worried about.
Yeah, it could have been something, I guess, also very serious in a different way. But, however, this area is the library kind of sector. You need to have kind of a blue all-access badge. It's not a very common area to be going in and out. You can't just go in there. In the last 5 hours, the storyline has changed. All of a sudden, they realize, maybe it was actually found in a cubby where everybody enters and exits. But that just isn't true based on the radio recording of the hazmat team that was identifying the substance.
So who has been in there in the last 5 hours? How many people have been in there?
I mean, I couldn't give you an exact number, but you certainly need to have a level of access.
So you're talking about single figures, like 7, 8 people?
It could very easily be on a handful of people. Okay. And definitely there's cameras everywhere, and there's one certain culprit who's odds-on favorite.
So someone who likes reading and has a coke addiction. We can narrow it down to that.
And likes finger painting in quiet spaces.
So we're narrowing it down now.
But look, I worked at the House of Commons. The vetting there is, it's not as significant as it would be perhaps if you were working in the Home Office, but there was some vetting done, and they were very keen to make sure that you weren't engaged in any criminal activities. Presumably people in the White House must be subject to something far, far, far more fulsome than that. I mean, I just wonder how, if you were regularly phoning a drug dealer, how on earth you'd manage to get a pass for the White House.
It would be shocking. You would need a father or somebody who's really well connected in that building to kind of help you out. Otherwise,
you're not going to get it delivered to the White House, are you? You're going to go and get it and bring it in. He's not going to order his dealer to come and deliver it to the White House.
And to your original question,
they found it in the House of Commons as well.
Roughly like a 8-ball size is what the media was saying. I guess the street vernacular. So
what's that then? What's an 8-ball? Tell us what an 8-ball is.
A large personal quantity. I suppose,
like a pool ball.
We are slightly dancing around an issue here, aren't we? But it has often been said that there is a member of the Biden family, let's not get into who it is, who was thrown out of the Navy for smoking crack. Now, look, what is the right of a member of the family to go into the White House? Because I would have thought you've got the President and the First Lady, and, you don't give passes to every child, every grandchild, every cousin, every aunt and uncle. These people aren't necessarily, they don't need to be there, do they?
No, and it's not exactly common to have somebody in the White House who isn't. For example, let's take the opposite. You have Ivana Trump, right, or Ivanka Trump. She was there, but she was a White House advisor when she was there. She had a role in the administration. She was the president's daughter, but she had a role. It's not normal to have somebody just sort of drifting in and out of the White House who's a 50-year-old man, not a child, who has no official title, who's given this sort of open season access to the White House. It's very bizarre.
But can't Biden just issue him a pass that gets him in all areas?
Yeah, Biden can. And also they can come in through the, if you have a certain blue badge of all access pass, your car isn't searched in the same way, besides for, bombs and whatnot.
And surely they're not going to search people thoroughly like intimate searches, so there's going to be ways to get things in.
There certainly is, and the question is, hopefully, was that being used by any real decision makers, or is it being used by some sort
but
of...
I think the question that we're looking at here is this, right? Look, obviously, an official residence, as far as I'm concerned, is provided for the purposes of entertaining, say, foreign guests or whatever, and also for security reasons, right? You know, it's just so much easier for you to live in the White House because they've got all the defence systems around there than live in your own home. But, I mean, you know, the purpose of it is not for you to just, you know, invite all your family round and just have a load of fun in there. You know, this is meant to be a serious place. And I suppose my question to you, Errol, is this. There is no point in having rules on, propriety. There's no point in having rules on bribery. There's no point in having rules on lobbying and access if suddenly, you know, anyone who happens to be related to the president can just completely ignore them.
Yes, and that's sort of the terrifying scenario we're seeing, even with the House investigation into the bribery side of what you mentioned. There's supposed to be checks and balances. This is supposed to be the people's house. It's a venerable office of respect, and it's being treated like a personal slush fund with a hint of, I guess, animal house party vibes. It's not being treated with the due respect and seriousness that it needs to be. And that's due to the inhabitants not taking the job seriously, as far as we can tell. There seems to be
it's like a manifestation of politics generally.
Yeah, I've looked at, before we go on to David, I've looked at the background of Hunter Biden, who's one of Joe Biden's children. And look, he's made an enormous amount of money out of oil and gas, right? Now, look, at the end of the day, the man was earning something like $50,000 a month, lobbying on behalf of an oil and gas firm. He has no professional background whatsoever in oil and gas. He's not a chemist. He's not an oil driller. He's not from anywhere particularly associated with this. And I don't know the man, and I don't know whether he's dodgy, and I'm not going to besmirch him necessarily, but I just find it very hard to understand why somebody is paid the thick end of £1 million a year when they have no background whatsoever in the industry they're being paid that money by, and their father just happens to be the Vice President of the United States of America. It doesn't feel good to me.
Well, he's obviously buying access, isn't he?
He's not obviously doing that, but yeah. I mean, I can't see what
appears to be buying access anyway.
But this is similar. This is similar to me being given a job as a director of Ford Motor Company.
Oh, indeed. Well, again,
it's what politicians do after they retire, isn't it?
Well, exactly. Again, it's we've got parallels with Britain. There's one rule for Democrats in America, and there's one rule for the Republicans. There is no honest justice. From what I can see, there seems to be a complete lack of honest justice.
Just on that subject, yeah. David. Now, put this to Errol. What amazed me was this, right? So we heard all about Donald Trump apparently being in collusion with Russia, and the allegation was that he went to the Russian government and got information dirt on Hillary Clinton. We know that John Podesta's brother, who was Hillary Clinton's chief of staff, did go to the Ukrainian embassy and did get dirt on Trump. Right, so this man is literally guilty of what's being accused of Donald Trump. Nobody cares. Why is that?
Well, that's the $1 million question, because people do care. They just aren't given a voice. And if you bring it up, you're accused of being a conspiracy theorist. When Donald Trump was on 60 Minutes, they said the laptop isn't verifiable, shut down the president. It's a one-sided media blitz. Yeah. And you go back to when Hunter Biden was getting all those payments. Keep in mind, his dad was actually in charge of Ukraine. That was the vice president's sort of purview in that. Yeah. So you see this level of corruption. Everybody can see it, and there's willful ignorance. People are willing to destroy the American Republic and the ideals it stands on in exchange for short-term power.
Okay, Errol, we're actually out of time. That's Erol Morkoc, who's Chief Strategist and Vice Chairman of Republicans Overseas UK. Look, we've got a phone in.